Welcome to Catalyst Chats, where leaders spark ideas, share wins, and tackle people challenges that shape the future of work.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Catalyst Chats. I'm Lindsey Hammer, and today I have the opportunity to speak with Dorna Moini, who is the CEO and founder at Gavel. Dorna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Lindsey. I'm really excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. And I'd love it to start if you could just share an introduction with our audience.
Yes, absolutely. So I am, as you mentioned, the CEO and founder of Gavel, which is an end-to-end automation suite for lawyers. So we do everything from intake to rules-based document automation to AI contract drafting. And I actually didn't start out wanting to build a technology company. I was a litigator at Sidley Austin. And what happened was big part of my practice was representing pro bono clients,
Okay.
and they were domestic violence survivors. And they needed to navigate the legal system. That's not what we do at Gavel right now. But when I was practicing, these domestic violence survivors needed to navigate the legal system through a variety of different legal means, whether it was restraining orders, gun restriction orders, and spousal support and divorce, all of the legal ramifications that come along with being in that type of situation. And I found that a lot of my work helping these clients was focused on rules-based paperwork and things that were maybe very complex, but where you could apply rules to it. So what I wanted to do is build an automated system that would help me get faster through those cases, so I could get to the piece where I could actually add value as a lawyer. And so I got together with a friend of mine who was an engineer, and we built something like TurboTax, if you're familiar with TurboTax. And your
Okay.
listeners are
Yeah.
familiar with TurboTax, but not for tax, for domestic violence law. So users could
Okay,
get onto
cool.
the platform, answer questions, be routed down different paths, generate all the documents that they needed in their case. And then we built that, we launched it, we had a ton of people using it. And what happened was there were other lawyers in other areas of law who were wanting to build similar tools. They kept reaching out to us, asking us to help them.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing was we realized there was so much similarity across, even though all the areas of law that these lawyers were practicing was different, the basic building blocks were the same. They wanted to ask questions, to gather data about their clients. They wanted to route those down different paths depending on the situation. They wanted to generate documents based on rules. And
Yeah.
so that was really the genesis for Gavel. Gavel started as really a rules-based platform, and you can build any area of law on it that is amenable to templates and rules. And then this year, we also launched an AI tool that really helps you with everything that you can't do through rules. So,
Okay.
redlining, negotiation, drafting and redrafting clauses that maybe are not something that you have a
Yeah.
huge clause library for. So we are really becoming the end-to-end suite. And it's really come from a lot of the practice that I
Yeah.
had when I was practicing.
Yeah, congratulations. It's a super meaningful origin story.
Thank you. Yeah. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah. Well, and I was curious to ask you, and you answered some of that. It sounds like there hasn't been a ton of resistance to adoption, actually. It sounds like companies are really looking for this and coming to you. So what has that evolution looked like? And then what are some of the technical challenges that you've faced with creating these solutions?
Yeah, definitely. Well, on the resistance side, I'll say we started with the legal aid organizations first. That was our initial
Yeah.
customer base.
Yeah.
And there they had necessity. Had so many people that they needed to serve, and they weren't able to serve all the people who were coming in through their door. And so for that reason, I think we started with like the path of least resistance, where these
Yeah.
lawyers just needed something to help them serve these communities. And then we worked with small and mid-sized firms next. We still have a lot of large firms on our platform, but our core market now is small and mid-sized law firms. And they're also seeing, almost out of necessity, they're seeing pricing competition. They're seeing client-side demand for the use of technology and AI. And so they're really looking outside of the box to think about how they can make their practices more efficient, because they're definitely more impacted by some of those pricing changes and some of the technology changes than the larger firms are. So
Right.
I think the fact that we've gone from the legal aid up to the small, up to the mid-size, and then up to the large firms has helped us sort of like stay in tune with the demand and how it's evolving.
Totally. Yeah.
And then I know you asked, the other question you asked was about the sort of tech challenges. We have a big AI component we have two products. We have Gavel Workflows, which is our rules-based product, and we have Gavel Exec, which is an
Okay.
AI assistant inside of Microsoft Word. And both of those products use AI in some way or another. And I
Right.
think our biggest challenge has really just been training the AI models to think like lawyers and
Yeah.
give answers that you actually want to accept. Because it's not just about having like an answer that looks sort of good. If the lawyer isn't going to click, yes, do this for me now, they're not going to adopt the technology. So you really need to be constantly evolving how you are training the models, how you're keeping up to date
Totally.
with the most recent models, whether you're benchmarking against real data. And we don't train on any of our customers' data, but we do hire lawyers to help us decide which models are the best
Yeah.
ones for our customers.
I'm sure that's a pretty intensive like language training process. Just knowing, I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but knowing that it's like a highly regulated and like a lot of compliance that goes into that, I'm sure it's a pretty interesting process.
Definitely. It's been really interesting. And also we have learned to start small. Like, so for the
Yeah.
piece of our product in which we use the most AI, which is Gavel Exec, we
Yeah.
really primarily have trained it for corporate law, corporate transactional law, and real estate transactional law. But we
Okay.
know for those two areas, we can do incredibly well. We can get really, really good results for our clients. And I think that sort of narrowing down gets you the best results and
Yeah.
is the right approach for any technology company.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, where do you see legal practice heading in the next 3 to 5 years? And how are you positioning Gavel to be kind of ahead of that transformation?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that in the next few years, there's a lot of fear around what's going to happen to lawyers. Are they
Yeah.
going to be replaced completely? And I
Totally.
think that it's really more about one, unbundling. So unbundling the different tasks that the lawyer does and having technology address the right pieces of that larger puzzle. And then two, shifting pricing in a way that makes sense more for both the lawyer and the consumer. And when I say consumer, I
Right.
mean whether it's a large business who's consuming legal services or like an individual who's consuming legal services. So when you combine those two together and you match it to the right type of automation, I think you're actually going to find that lawyers will have more work to do because
Yeah.
there are lots of stats around this, around the access to justice crisis and around the access to legal services that people have. One that I
Yeah.
find that's interesting is that 77% of people who are accessing legal services are not using a lawyer. They're doing it through some other
Wow.
way. And so
Wow.
this is really,
That's
it's not that I
significant.
know it's insane. And it's interesting because those people do want lawyers. They just can't
Right.
pay $500 an hour, average rate of a lawyer, to
Totally.
pay for them to do that work. So if we can have lawyers who are combining technology and their legal services in the right way and packaging in the right way, it may look very different. I will be very blunt about that. It may look very different for lawyers, like the practice of law and the pricing models for certain areas will look very
Yeah.
different, but it could be something that actually ends up having higher profit margins, looks better for those lawyers, and then also helps the customer have transparency and access an actual lawyer's services through
Yeah.
all those moments of need.
Yeah. It almost feels like AI is making lawyers' knowledge more accessible or allowing them to be in more places at once, in a sense.
Definitely. It's like scaling them out. I think that's
Yeah.
exactly it. And I think that's
Exactly.
really the a business model that we've seen across many industries. You can think about
Yeah.
any type, like, I mean, even if you think of like food process products and like the proliferation of
Yep.
like Walmarts and better access to organic groceries, like all of that has actually led to more demand for those types of products.
Totally.
Legal has really been behind. And I think the same thing applies. If you make your product more available, the pricing model might be different, but you actually could benefit from that new model.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a far less scary way to think about it too. And I think spot on.
Definitely.
Well, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as a leader?
Yeah. So I think, as a business leader who I went straight through from undergrad to law school, and then I started a company right after, and then I went straight into working at a law firm, worked in a law firm for about 7 years, and then
Okay.
went straight into launching a company. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I've really had to learn is how to do everything around business, because I don't think I really learned that at a law firm. I learned how to be a lawyer, but and many of those skills really do translate into becoming a business owner.
Yeah.
But I had to learn, what is product? How do you launch a product? How do you decide what to build? What is sales? What
Yeah.
is marketing? What is hiring and recruiting and building a really good culture? All of those things I had to learn from scratch. And so that's been definitely a very fun process. But as our company has sort of grown, I've also been able to learn what those skills are, but also install people who are really experts in each of those things, like marketing expert, technical expert, customer success expert. Like, I've really been able to have a
Totally.
team who's much better than me at each of those individual things, which I think has made us much more much stronger. And as a result, has also helped me grow as a leader. But it's definitely been a journey and constantly learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always believed that as a leader, one of the best things that we can do is hire people that are better than us at certain things.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, what other wins or exciting projects are going on that you can share with us?
Yeah. So right now we are making so we have our two products. We have Gavel Workflows, which is our rules-based automation platform. We actually are just about to launch a whole entire revamp of this product. Our
Okay,
whole
exciting.
goal with this product is to make it really, really easy to use, but also give it the ability to have really complex logic. And so that's something that this new launch is going to help a lot of our customers with, just make everything really intuitive. We've also instituted AI into the onboarding process there. So while the
Okay.
product itself, the Gavel Workflows product itself, is rules based, and what I mean by rules based is, you're, as a lawyer, you're saying, if, as an example, if the couple has been married for more than 6 months and they've been in this county for more than 6 months, then this is how their divorce is going to proceed. Like, you're adding
Yeah.
actual rules as opposed to
Okay, cool.
judgment based processing. You can do that through AI actually setting up the rules, but then you're at the end of the day deciding what those rules are. So that's one of the big changes that we are about to launch fully to all of our customers. And then the other is our Gavel Exec product, which is a newer product. It's an AI assistant directly inside of Microsoft Word. We launched it this year. And what's been really great about that is it lives where lawyers work. Like, lawyers are all in Microsoft Word. And so the barrier to using that technology is so low, and
That's huge.
they can there are buttons that they can click to get certain actions to be done, or they can prompt it if they prefer to have it interact with their document, whether it's to analyze that
Yeah.
document, redline that document, negotiate it, add projects where they're training on their own data. All of that becomes possible. So, though are we're becoming more and more integrated into each other, and also our goal really is to be the end-to-end automation suite for lawyers, and we've sort of are covering all of the bases through which lawyers do their legal work now.
Yeah. I think that's really great. I think one of the hardest sayings, as somebody who's adopted and implemented tools working in the corporate world, one of the hardest sayings is when the tools exist outside of whatever system you're using. So that's really exciting.
So true. Yes, very true. It's that's definitely a barrier on the product side too. You're always trying to see what's going to increase adoption, what's going to get our customers to actually want to use this tool outside of it actually being a good tool and being really, really low friction to adopt. It has been a really important factor for us.
Yeah. Very cool. Being a leader in the AI space, I'm curious too how you're using AI within your company.
Definitely. So we use AI everywhere. I think that one of the things that's really important for us to do is to be testing all the different tools, even outside of legal, just to see what are people finding useful, what's possible. So I don't actually use it for anything real, but like, I've tried some of the different code editors. Like, I've tried Lovable. I used it
Okay.
for like a mini personal project
Yeah.
that I just like a thing that I did on the weekend to play around with. But I think what's really important is to understand how those products work, so that you can introduce some of the similar elements that particularly that consumers love into our own application. Outside of that, what we actually use practically at our firm, at our organization is we use Notion AI, which is really helpful. It connects into Slack and into basically all of our Notion database and gives us really good answers on what we need. We have built a chatbot that connects into our learning center so that our customers can use it, but then it also has our internal customer team use it. So if they're looking for information on something maybe they haven't specifically encountered, because Gavel is there's so many things that you can do with Gavel. If they're looking for something like that, they can look through the chatbot and get answers there. What else are we using? I mean, I use ChatGPT on a very, very regular basis. So
Totally.
I also often I use Claude and ChatGPT to sort of like test the two and see which one's better at a given point. I would say those are probably the main ones. I tried something.
Do you have a favorite?
I mean, I love Notion AI. I do use ChatGPT more, but I think it's just because I've talked to it so much more that it remembers has a memory of what
starting to like tailor to you a little bit more.
Exactly. It's a little bit more tailored. I've tried some of the AI note takers. For some reason, maybe I'm too old school. I just end up reverting back to like wanting my own notes.
Yeah.
But they're definitely good to keep track of what may have been said in larger meetings.
Totally. Yeah. I use Fathom for note taking.
Okay. Yeah. How do you like it?
I still find myself like I have a notepad right here, and I still find myself jotting things down. Totally.
Old school. I always show up to our all company offsites with a bunch of like legal pads, and then at the end, all of them are still left behind. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to take all these home because I'm actually going to use them. I think there's our product manager is big note taker too. So me and her are always taking notes.
Yeah. It's hard to let that go. I mean, I love the AI note taking. I think it's really helpful, but yeah, hard to let that go.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, any other advice that you would give to leaders who are starting their own companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that building of the technology is sort of only half of the battle. And the most, one of the bigger pieces that's actually harder is translating that technology into your market, which is so different for any particular company. Like for us, talking to lawyers in the places where they work, speaking their language, using the tools that they need, making calls to the, if you're using AI, like making calls to the tools that they need has been one of the most important pieces. And then also never underestimate how important it is to talk to customers, no matter how big you get. We have thousands of law firms on our platform, and I have a customer call after this one, and it's at all stages of the funnel. Trial who may have decided not to even step foot into the product. Trial who, didn't go past all of the magical moments that you really wanted them to get into your product.
Yeah.
Later stage customers who have been on for a long time and maybe just haven't reached out to you, but have been on for a while. Customers who maybe might churn for any particular reason. It's really important for leaders to be talking to those people, no matter how big you get, because I don't think there's any substitute for that communication.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's super easy to lose track of the experience that your customer base is having.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Dorna. I really appreciate your time, and I feel like I've learned a lot. Super grateful for you sharing.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Lindsey. And then if any of your listeners are interested, and particularly the lawyers, I don't know how big the lawyer piece of the audience is. I do a lot of posts on how lawyers use technology. And if anyone wants to follow along there, my Instagram and all social handles are Dorna@Gavel.
Okay. Yeah. We'll get you some more followers from this, hopefully.
Amazing.
Thank you for listening to Catalyst Chats. Like, share, and don't forget to follow.